I'm Ian O'Neill.
I'm Caoilte Barra.
I'm Andy Stevenson, and you're listening to the Auld Triangle.
We're an Irish MMA podcast brought to you by SevereMMA.com.
From amateurs to pros, regional shows to Irish fighters abroad, we're all over Irish MMA.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, hit subscribe, and now let's start the episode.
And we're back. The smooth sounds of understarting bringing us in for episode 2 of the Auld Triangle. We're fresh off the IMMAFs. We've got a monster show lined up for you today. We've got some interviews with Liam-Óg Griffin coming along, and also IMMAF gold medalist Nadine Abbott-Bissett as well. And lads, how's it going for you? We're fresh off the IMMAFs. We were up at the early hours. We were covering the fights. Caoilte, we were over there. You did some fantastic work at the event. Andy, you did some Trojan work over here. You know, I was up doing some work behind the scenes for SevereMMA, getting some stuff done there. And, you know, that's what we're here for. I mean, there's not too many people out there that are doing it the right way like us. I mean, we're all working together. We're all working really, really hard to try and shine a spotlight on Irish MMA. And I mean, you know, through the years and years with SevereMMA, we've had numerous amount of Irish athletes come through, numerous amount of Irish fighters, the best in the business in when it comes to Irish MMA. And also when you look at the likes of Graham and Andrew and Sean and, you know, Pete C and Niall as well, you know, so some of the best media members as well. And when we're the next generation of media members that are coming through. And there's no, like, when we brought this podcast to the table, I mean, there's no two guys that I wanted to do this with other than Andy and Caoilte. You know, we're three guys who have the utmost passion for Irish MMA. And, you know, people have to remember too, you know, along with this is our passion. You know, we have full-time jobs. We have other things going on in our lives. So we're trying our best to do our best for the Irish scene. We're trying our best to get all of our work out there, you know, but it's there's only so much time we can spend reaching out to try and get interviews, to try and get quotes, to try and get stories, you know. So we need the help from the fighters, we need the help from the coaches, we need help from the managers. Come and speak with us. We want to shine the spotlight on the fighters. We want to shine the spotlight on the scene as well. And I mean, I just kind of I'm a little bit passionate especially after looking at the IMMAFs and looking at Team Ireland and what they've done and what they were able to achieve over there. I mean, the success of Team Ireland as overall at the amateurs was absolutely phenomenal in my eyes. I mean, the fighters, the coaches, the backroom team, and you, Caoilte, and you, Andy, and yourself, we should all be very proud. We all did our part in shining a light on what was a really, really great tournament. And you know, maybe I'll just shoot over to Caoilte first, because you were over there. You were in Abu Dhabi. You had the bird's eye look at what things were going on over there. How was it for you, Caoilte?
He's been like a new man since coming back from Abu Dhabi, lads. It was phenomenal. Like working with IMMAF is probably one of the greatest things I've probably done. I really, really enjoy it, and getting to go over was phenomenal. Covering obviously the Irish fighters and all the fighters who are competing at IMMAF and learning about different cultures, different fighters, different background stories, all these things. It was incredible, surreal, really. But obviously the icing on the cake for me was watching the Irish like thrive, trying to hold in a bit of cheering every now and again. It was very tough, but managed to keep it in. But yeah, amazing. I would recommend to everyone, if you ever have the opportunity to head on over or to cover the IMMAFs, anything at all, to take the leap. It's worth going over. I was very privileged to go over there. I'm well aware of it, but yeah, I love it, and I think everyone should experience one sometime in their life. Be it with like big websites. Hopefully they start picking it up soon. Ones in the US. I know we've been doing, like the two lads been doing, which did amazing work. Hopefully more people start kind of doing that across the world, really. And because these amateurs deserve so much credit. Some of these it's hammer pros. Like, let's be real, it hammers some of them. It's amazing. So yeah, that's my spiel about it. I loved it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too.
I really enjoyed it. And I'll bring you in now in a second, Andy. I think, there wasn't all that much coverage really overall. I mean, like, we all did our part, and, Andy, you recorded all the fights and put the videos up and did an absolutely phenomenal job. I did some work behind the scenes with SevereMMA, just getting your videos up and doing some articles as well. Caoilte did some fantastic work for IMMAF, and head over and check that out as well. But for me, it was my first event that I really shone a light onto and really covered it, like, from start to finish. And I did some coverage on the World Cup last year as well, and it made me, I'm more in tune with amateur MMA right now. I have caught the bug for amateur MMA. It was a phenomenal journey to go through the full week of the IMMAFs. And how was it for you, Andy, looking in? I know we were up early, we were watching the live streams. All three of us were texting one another about times and trying to get everything in line so that we didn't miss any fights and everything like that. I mean, it was really great experience overall, especially covering the event and watching Team Ireland being so successful.
I will get to the IMMAFs in a second, but my God, look at that. Look at that passion that Ian has brought to episode 2. I mean, there's a man who wants some respect put in his name. That passion you just delivered there in that soliloquy at the start is why we're here, right? You said it there yourself, we've caught the book for Irish MMA. Covering that IMMAF tournament was the first time I'd really, I followed along the IMMAFs previously. I've tried to keep up where I can with fights, but it was the first time I'd watched every single Irish fight and covered it all. And I think it was phenomenal. And I think that, as you said, it's the three of us on the show. This isn't a show about us. It's about the fighters. It's about Irish MMA. But we spent a lot of time, and give that man Ian O'Neill some props, because I saw a lot of people heaping the praise on myself and Caoilte for putting stuff out. But Ian, you were getting up all hours of the day, so you were working just as hard as us, and I think there's put some respect on Ian O'Neill's name was the message there, understandably so. Exactly.
Look, I've been, like a lot of people might not know, but I had kept a close eye on Irish MMA for a long, long time. I was a person who was involved in Irish MMA and fought on the Irish MMA scene maybe 10 or 12 years ago. So, for one reason or another, I had to step away from that. My goal when I started covering MMA 2 years ago was, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I had a love and a passion for the sport. And then when you get back into covering it, and I do some UFC stuff and everything like that, but really home is where the heart is. And, I don't have the privilege right now of like you or Caoilte, of being able to go out there and being able to go and be on the ground for these live shows or anything like that. But you know what? That doesn't mean I'm over in Canada. I'm based in Canada. I have a full-time job over here. I have to sort out real life stuff before I look after the MMA stuff. But I mean, I look at Irish MMA from afar. I want to cover it the best that I can. And I mean, you guys are the same, and we're going to see that. We're not going anywhere. We're here for the long run. And what Andy said is that we're not doing it for ourselves. I don't care. I want to shine the light on Irish MMA. I want to shine the light and tell the stories of Irish MMA fighters. And that's what Andy wants to do. And that's what Caoilte wants to do as well. And that's what we're here for. And we're not going anywhere. We're the next generation in media. We're doing it the right way. And we're going to continue doing it the right way. And there's no place we'd rather be doing it rather than SevereMMA.com as well. So we say thank you to them for giving us the platform, because, when we talk about Irish MMA and the history of Irish MMA, SevereMMA.com have been a very focal part of that history. And we'll continue to do that with the next generation of fighters as well. And Andy, Team Ireland had a very successful IMMAF tournament. I mean, who were the most standout performances for you? Before we move on to our interview, and we'll talk a little bit more about it with Liam-Óg Griffin in our first interview of the day, but I'd just like to get your perspective on what was your overall opinion on Team Ireland's success and a couple of standout performances.
I was blown away by the entire tournament. I was blown away by I'll get to the specific performances now in a second, but what stood out to me the most was the collective coming together of Irish MMA throughout this tournament. You know, there was coaches from all over the country, whether it was Team Rhino in Omagh or, you know, Kieran Davern down in Tullamore, the lads from Cork, Dublin guys, you know, from everywhere, all over the country. And you had coaches who aren't the main coaches of, say, like, you know, you had a Kieran Davern coaching Nadine Abbott-Bissett in the final, and, you know, they don't work together usually. So for me, it was just a really wholesome week for Irish MMA. And look, I described it in the recap article I did as a mixed bag, I think is what I said. And, you know, there was plenty to celebrate, but there was also a bit of a wake up call to say, okay, you know, it was great. We came sixth, which is phenomenal for a small country like Ireland. But, you know, when you look at the Russian team and the Kazakhs and the Bahraini team, there's tough competition out there. So it's going to be a real, you know, a good check to an extent to say, right, we've got a lot to work on. However, there was some phenomenal performances. Nadine Abab-Bisset, you can't overlook her. Number one, she mauled the Kazakhstani woman in the quarterfinal, got the sub in the second round. She mauled the Indian woman in the semi-final, got the TKO, and then a very closely fought final where she overcame adversity, where she was technical, she was tactical and intelligent. And for me, she was the star of the whole week. There are plenty of other performances that we can talk about, and I'll hand it over to Caoilte to maybe talk about some of the other ones that caught his eye as a man on the ground.
Yeah, of course. There was so many lads. It was quite a wild week. One of my favorite fighters to watch was Gary Rooney. He was like, every time he was on, I was over by the cage or I was looking from the stands, and he was so fun to watch. He was close in that fight. He lost, but you know, you never know. It could have gone his way if a few more bits happened. But look, it's all a learning experience. But he was a real standout performer for me. Ethan Gurn really surprised me. I said it to him as well. I said, it's like, you really surprised me, because he was in, lads, that division is disgustingly strong. You've Gusenov, Gitanov and that, and he went into that division not with a lot of experience, but really impressed me. He put on a great fight with Teddy Stringer. That first round was mad. Second round, I know it didn't go his way, but I really enjoyed watching him. Kai O'Sullivan, thought she may have been hard done by. Another standout performance who I'm very high on. I think she'll go very far, but another really fun one to watch. Yeah, they could go on. Sarah Carney's another one, actually. I really enjoyed watching Sarah Carney fight. I think she's got some savage potential. I think she could easily medal at numerous IMMAF tournaments. She's in a tough division, but she's not, like, she can put up a hell of a fight, and she looked fantastic in there as well.
And the Team Ireland picked up some medals at junior level and at senior level. There's some outstanding performances there and some well-deserved medal winners too. You know, Andy Ryan told us in episode 1 to watch out for the women, watch out for what they're going to do, and he was dead right. They had a massively successful tournament overall in the junior and in the senior level, and we also picked up a medal in the senior category in the middleweight division too with Paul Buckley.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, congratulations to all the medal winners. Firstly, so we had Nadine Abab-Bissett picking up gold in the women's atomweight. We had Kai O'Sullivan with the silver in women's junior flyweight. Paul Buckley taking a bronze in the men's middleweight. And, you know, Paul Buckley coming up against what looks to be an incredible fighter in what's it, Fergus? Someone tell me his last. Jenkins. Yeah. He looked fantastic. He sliced through Daniel O'Sullivan and Paul Buckley, so he looks to be a phenomenal fighter. And then Ava Cruz picking up the bronze. You know, obviously an All Ireland clash in the semi-finals with herself and Kai O'Sullivan. So a lot to be. And that was
a really good fight. A very entertaining fight. Ireland versus Ireland there, and unfortunately someone had to come out with the bronze medal in that fight, but put on a hell of a show in that fight.
Yeah, and look, I think we also have to call a spade, and this isn't to take away, but there's less of a pool of talent, or a pool of athletes competing on the women's side. So it's not in certain categories there can be, I don't want to say an easier path, but there may be fewer fights to take on, but the standard. So forget about that. I realize I'm not trying to take away from it, because I just think you know, when you look at the men's versus women's, there's so many more men athletes out there. So it is a little bit more difficult in that regard. However, the standard that the women showed was class. Like, to look at someone like Kerry-Ann Vernon as well, we'll go into this in the interview with Liam-Óg, which you guys are going to hear very shortly. But Kerry-Ann Vernon coming in from Wimp to Warrior to going and fighting, and she didn't look like someone who has just taken up MMA recently when she was out there. You know, I'm talking to there a minute about maybe a smaller talent pool. When you saw Kerry-Ann Vernon fighting there, she looked like she's been doing this for years. The upskilling that she's done in the short space of time she's been in the sport has been phenomenal to watch. And there's going to be so many more athletes like Kerry-Ann Vernon coming through. And maybe to both of you, if you want to maybe pick a couple of performances, there were individual performances, whether it be knockouts or submissions along the way, that maybe guys that didn't make it to the medal stage, that blew me away. So maybe if you guys want to jump in with maybe some of your highlights of the tournament.
Well, I think my highlight of the tournament was just the tournament as a whole, the support that the Irish team gave to one another, the success, you know, at senior level in the men's categories, you know, a lot of tough brackets there, a lot of tough draws. I have to say Max Lally performed absolutely phenomenally there in the junior category before he unfortunately got hurt and was unable to continue. So we wish Max a speedy recovery from that shoulder injury. We believe hopefully we get to see him fighting soon in future, and that it's not too badly hurt. And I'm sure that we'll have him on for an interview as well down the line as well. I mean, what really stood out to me was the support, was all the work that went into the tournament, and we'll talk about that with Liam-Óg as well in just a few moments. And just to see the togetherness of all the team over there and how much they were willing to support one another. And I think, Caoilte, you'll be able to give us an even better view at maybe that kind of point, because you were there, you were underground, you were in around Team Ireland, you were in around a lot of the teams that were over competing at the IMMAFs. And I mean, how did it feel from your perspective?
Being around all the teams, and even just seeing the support was it was mad, really. And it's quite surreal because you see the passion in every single one of them, and it's especially in the final with Ireland, you should have seen them all. They're all gathered by this railing looking onto the cage, and then you hear the ole ole's going every now and again, and it was really that I was buzzing with that. Now I was like, that really kind of goosebumps moment, because especially when you realize that Nadine Abab-Bisset was about to win gold, because she was so dominant. But overall, there's a lot of stand-up performances. I could go into different teams, different athletes, but focusing on Ireland in particular, I've given a few already, so don't want to be forgetting any other people. I think Dan O'Sullivan was another one. Yeah, he did well. We got through. I think he came up against the phenom that was Fergus Jenkins, 1/8 Irish, by the way. So we might claim him. Do you know?
Oh yeah, that's another gold.
We'll have him. But yeah, like one thing, to be honest, one thing I really want to touch on as well. Not just like, obviously we're off for the athletes, but the Irish MMA community as a whole is something you need to touch on here as well. And one thing I noticed when I was over there is it's not just fighters coming from Ireland that are out there. You have cut women, cut men, you've doctors, you've sports therapists, volunteer. Like, it's crazy. The amount of people that go out and do work, some of them off their own back, is ridiculous. Like, they're the passion from the Irish, like referees, judges, geez, I could go on. I got to speak to a few of them and got a bit of insight to what they do there, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, the work they do, they deserve a lot of credit. I don't want to start naming because I'll probably forget quite a few. But the work they do is just phenomenal, and they deserve so much respect and credit for going out there and making sure the fighters are safe, that there's a fair environment in terms of judging, refereeing, and look, that's the one thing I kind of wanted to add as well, I guess.
Yeah, I might jump in and just with a couple of just going back to the fights, some of the performances that I thought were incredible. Max Lally's first performance, the intelligence and fight IQ to, you know, he was comfortably winning the first round. It goes into the second, and it was the first time I've seen Max Lally anyway get pieced up a little bit with a combo, and I was like, ooh, what's going on here? And then immediately just shoots, level changes, shoots, takes him down, gets the rear naked choke. Like the seamless transition was noticeable to me, and I was very impressed by it. Another performance that I was very impressed with, that Damien McKenna KO that he got was savage. Like he unleashed a barrage of uppercuts to get just a terrifying KO. And Ethan Gearin, as you mentioned earlier on as well, he had a lovely submission as well. And then the Gary Rooney sub, where there was there a tap at the end of the second? Did the second go on to, was the time correct? And then he gets the sub in the third. So I was very impressed with all those guys. And there was probably plenty more, but I just wanted to give a few of those a shout out as well while we're on the topic.
Anyone that did compete over there and was successful, those are names that we mentioned, and everyone that competed on Team Ireland as well. Those are names that we're going to be talking about time and time again on this podcast. Each and every one of those fighters have such a bright future, and they should be so proud of themselves for going over there and competing under the circumstances. And it wasn't easy for them going over there with COVID and getting sessions down. And Liam-Óg alludes to that in the interview. And I guess without further ado, we'll move along onto that interview with Liam-Óg Griffin, who is the head coach at SBG Cork and also IMMAF coach as well, who went over there and was working seamlessly behind the scenes and coaching fighters and everything like that. He's going to come on and talk to us about his reaction to the tournament and a look ahead to the national championships as well. So without further ado, let's bring Liam-Óg Griffin on right now. And now I'd like to welcome to the Auld Triangle podcast, Mr. Liam-Óg Griffin, head coach at SBG Cork, IMMAF coach. He's just back from the IMMAFs himself. We've been talking a little bit about the IMMAFs between us, and it's great to have you on, Liam-Óg. We just wanted to have you on today, maybe to just talk about maybe the success of Team Ireland at the IMMAFs recently over in Abu Dhabi, and also maybe a brief look ahead to the national championships that are going to be taking place a little later on this month as well. How are you doing today, Liam-Óg? Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's an absolute honor to be on. I love the new format, guys. And before we even start as well, I just want to say a thank you to you guys and all of the Irish media for covering the IMMAF so well in the last fortnight and before that as well. As a team, we certainly noticed the upswing in news stories coming from home. Like we've always had great support from home, but there's just been a level up this year, and it's much appreciated. The athletes really appreciate it and give them a much needed boost in many of their fights. So thanks a million for having me on tonight, and thanks a million for that as well.
Absolutely. I think the IMMAFs for me anyway have been an eye-opener. I've been so impressed by the standard across the board, not just even the Irish team, but you're looking at the Kazakhstanis and the Russians, and the standard is phenomenal. When you reflect, I guess, on the tournament now, there's a bit of space from it now. How do you reflect on the tournament for Team Ireland?
I'm delighted with the result that we got at the end of the day. Disappointed for some of the athletes, like not disappointed in them, disappointed for them. I think we had a lot of athletes that were hoping to go a little bit further than they did. But I mean, to finish sixth overall on that medals table that's amazing, considering the fact that we've had 2 years of lockdowns. We haven't had a year of solid preparation internally with our squad training sessions. They've all been scuppered because of lockdown and COVID measures. And to finish sixth on the leaderboard, both junior and senior, is a phenomenal achievement. So I'm very, very proud of the whole team, and very happy that we are once again inside the top 10, despite all of the restrictions.
Yeah, it's certainly a fantastic achievement, and we definitely echo those sentiments ourselves. We were speaking at the start of this podcast about our enjoyment covering it. It really proud to be kind of Irish in a way, even though we have to be kind of covered on an even keel. And I mean, you spoke about with us during the week, Liam-Óg, what about bridging the gap into future tournaments? And I'm just wondering what plans are in place possibly to bridge that gap and maybe to bring more success into Team Ireland in future tournaments?
Yeah. Well, coming out of lockdown is going to be a big help. We can get those squads going. The squad training is essential for the team building aspect of things, and just to kind of bring the newer guys that are coming to the IMMAF stage, just bring them up to speed on like the level of wrestling that they're going to encounter at an IMMAF tournament is different to what you'll encounter in the UK scene. So that will definitely help. We also this time had the opportunity to talk with a number of the other coaches, particularly the European coaches, and before we get to European Championships and World Cups and World Championships for next year, we're going to try and run a couple of inter-country like challenge cups, we say, between Ireland and maybe 4 other nations within the EU, within Europe, and just like, it doesn't even have to be the number 1 or 2 picks out of the country. We'll match everybody, and let's get the whole squad up a level and have them get that international experience before they have to go to the likes of the World Championships, where there is literally no easy fights. It's just an absolute onslaught once you get in there. So a few international events, kind of at a slightly smaller level to the Worlds will help, and then just getting the squads going a bit more regularly and a bit more organized.
And yeah, that is great to hear. And guys, feel free, Andy or Caoilte, to come in there at any minute. And just wondering, like, how extra hard was it for the fighters, for the coaches, for the background team to kind of get yourselves prepared for the tournament this year? With all COVID regulations, I know squad sessions were hard come by and everything like that. I mean, it just has to be an extra light shined on the whole setup, I think, and how difficult it was to get things off the ground and get things going. And then to look at how successful the team was overall in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very difficult. I mean, like you're up against nations, we'll say particularly Russia, Bahrain, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan. These countries have training camps devoted where all the athletes who are picked for the squad are training together for like 6-8 weeks in the lead up to the championships, all together in one place with all of their coaches all day long. They don't have to worry about funding. They don't have to worry about travel expenses. They have literally nothing to worry about. And then little old us over here, self-funded. We can't. We couldn't get our squads regular before the traveling. But you know, we just got to do what we got to do. We can't complain about the cards we were dealt. We just have to get on with it. And the athletes did get on with it, and they turned up ready to fight. They not a single bad performance from anybody on the team from Ireland, and they earned every bit of that 6th place on the medals table.
Liam-Óg, what would you say would be your highlight of the tournament, as far as, you know, maybe individual fighters or obviously, you know, the standout one is Nadine Abbott-Bissett. She won gold, which is fantastic. But are there any other ones in addition to Nadine, maybe, who really surprised you at the tournament?
Well, it's first it's great to see Nadine get that gold, because she had I believe it was 2 silver before that. She had a silver in the Europeans and Worlds. Her arch nemesis Magda from Poland pipped her at the post on 2 occasions in that regard. So to see her finally get that gold that she's been knocking on the door for such a long time, that was amazing. That was fantastic to see. I think just from I think to see Kerry-Ann Vernon have 2 great performances and just lose out very, very, very narrowly in her second fight against the girl who went on to win the silver in the end. That was, personally, that was good. But from a team point of view, standout performances. Gary Rooney had 2 cracking fights, and very, very unlucky to be pipped at the post in his second fight. Sarah Carney did very, very well. Very unlucky to lose that second fight. Also, there was so many great performances across the board. I'm struggling to pick out one, but for me personally, it was Kerry-Ann Vernon knocking her opponent's head back in the first fight. That girl is going on to go pro after this, actually. So for Kerry, who has only started amateur MMA since August last year, for her to be up there like winning fights at a World Championships level, that's very satisfying for me personally as a coach.
Just before Caoilte pops in, sorry Caoilte, Kerry-Ann Vernon, she came through the Pimp to Warrior program, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's a fantastic achievement in such a short space of time.
Mm-hmm. And she never actually got to have her Women to Warrior fight because she did 5 of the 6 months training, and then we went into lockdown 1. So we had our Women to Warrior show planned, and 3 weeks before the show, we had to pull the plug. Everything was shut down. That was like when we were told to get the kids out of school straight away and bring them home and lock them in the basement. That was that level of lockdown, right? So she didn't get that first fight. She came back in between the 2 lockdowns for another season, and that didn't end up in a fight either. So eventually she just kind of said, look, I'm going to go to the national squad training session. I'm like, yeah, go for the experience. And she went in. She actually handled herself very, very well. She just did very well, and she was there for the opportunity, and yeah, she just grabbed it with both hands, and she's done amazingly well since August.
Do you think these stories of people coming through Women to Warrior are going to become more like common, and that they'll turn into actual amateur MMA fighters and then compete at the national level? Like, it's incredible how far she's come along, but do you think that's going to be another route for fighters to take?
Absolutely, yeah. We have started to kind of tell prospective Women to Warrior athletes or contestants that, look, this is, if we'll say some people who do the Women to Warrior will be kind of a little older. Maybe this is a bucket list item for them. Maybe they just want to lose some weight and get fit and so on. But you've also got those younger, like early 20s, even late teens in some of our seasons, that they may have time and they may have the will and the desire to go and make a career out of this. And the Women to Warrior is certainly a great launch platform into an amateur career. I mean, Kerry's more of an exception to the rule in how quick she's done it. I think Natasha Wolf from Belfast, also a former Women to Warrior who fought in IMMAF as well. And I'm sure there's been multiple other countries. I'm pretty sure there's at least 1 or 2 from Australia who have come from Women to Warrior and gone on to fight in IMMAF. But it's certainly a good starting point for somebody if they wanted to get in there.
Liam-Óg, just before we transition and talk about the national championships that are coming up, I think we need to give Nadine Abab-Bisset her due. How big of an achievement, or how proud of you were you and the rest of the coaching staff of Team Ireland with Nadine's performances throughout the tournament? Because it wasn't just one; it was a number of incredible performances en route to gold.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, like an IMMAF gold medal is not to be snuffed at by any means necessary. Like there's just nothing that compares to it on the amateur scene. And she's there. She's right at the very, very top of the atomweight division. Worldwide, she is the top amateur atomweight in the world, right? And now, like, I'm pretty sure that there are professional organizations knocking on the door, looking to recruit her now, like as a professional athlete, because even professional organizations are starting to see the value of bringing on board an IMMAF gold medalist, the likes of Mokef, the likes of Nadine Abbott, the likes of Sinead Kavanagh, the likes of Liam-Óg Griffin. All of these athletes now, with that huge accolade, will sell more tickets on the professional show as well. So it's a huge achievement. Very, like, all the coaches, and I'm very, very happy for Andy Ryan as well. Like, this is his I think it's his second athlete to get a gold in IMMAF. That's huge for Team Rhino and for Andy personally as well. Very, very proud of the whole lot of them.
Yeah, it was great that Andy got to, he had some difficulties traveling over there, so it was great that he finally got to go over there and actually see Nadine do that in person. I was very happy to see that. We'll move on, Liam-Óg, to the national championships. So the first time that they will be taking place. What is that going to mean to the IMMAF setup, to Team Ireland? First of all, when are they taking place? You can let us know when they're taking place and where, and how people can sign up if it's still an option. And then maybe go on to explain maybe the importance of the national championships to the IMMAF setup.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's February 18th, 19th and 20th. It's a 3-day event, quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals. Now, some of the divisions will only have a straight final. Like some of the lighter divisions, the junior divisions and the female divisions won't be as stacked as some of the senior male divisions. But anyway, it'll still be a 3-day event because we want to get a national version of what that IMMAF tournament is all about. So we're going to try and mimic exactly the same as an IMMAF tournament. There will be weigh-ins every morning. You have to get medicals every morning, and you get your hand wraps and you're straight into the fight. There's no walkout music. There's no mad lights and disco balls and everything like that. It is an IMMAF tournament, true and true, always true. What it means for us as a national body, I mean, it gives extra legitimacy to that number one spot traveling to an IMMAF tournament now. Every other sport, every other national sport, and particularly combat sport, you look at boxing, you can't get to the Olympics unless you're the number one boxer in your division within the IABA. You have to become your Munster champion, you have to become your Irish champion, and then you move up from junior to senior to elite. So and the same for judo, the same for karate, the same for all the other sports. It has to be the same for MMA. We now have the ability to do that with this national championships. There will be no disputing who the number one is, and it'll mean that the guys that are would say at the level already at IMMAF level are going to be rubbing shoulders and fighting with the guys who are not quite at that level yet. So the next generation through will get that experience of having to compete with the best of the best in the country. So maybe they might not make it this time, but they'll know exactly what it means to make it the next time. And the year that will come will produce a much higher level internally at a national level. So it's not just about picking the one that goes off. It's about raising the game for all the ones that don't make it this time, that will make it next time. And we're bringing up the next generation. So it's hugely important. I'm very excited for it. And there's a hell of a set of matchups in a good few of those divisions. Like as like a card, as a fight card of itself, I'm sure there's a lot of promoters would love to have a handle of some of these matchups, because there's some cracking matchups going to be coming through these days.
Just to clarify on this, will the winners of each division, will they be the number one spot, or will they be the representative for Ireland for all IMMAF events? And does that have any implications on, let's say, the Super Cup as well?
So the Super Cup and Europeans 100% are picked from this nationals. For the Super Cup, it'll be the senior divisions. There are 7 divisions. I believe it's flyweight and bantamweight for the ladies, and then from bantamweight all the way to heavyweight for the gents. So the gold medalists in the senior divisions of those weight classes will be who will go forward for the Super Cup in Bahrain. For the Europeans, then it's a straight gold medal is the number one pick for every one of those divisions from junior to senior for the Europeans. Now the Worlds is so far away that we're going to probably need to have some sort of like a secondary evaluation, maybe somewhere in July, August, September, based on what has happened in the Super Cup and the Europeans, and maybe what's happening domestically as well. But like what we're saying to all athletes is like, you don't get to go to represent your country internationally if you haven't first become a national champion. So if you're not in this tournament, then it's not reasonable to expect to go forwards and represent your country afterwards. So get in there.
Just on the Super Cup, Liam-Óg, how did this come about, I suppose, and how did Ireland get involved? We spoke with Andy Ryan on the last episode, and you know, he was talking about money, essentially, you know, that the Russians and these other countries have a lot of funding behind them, where they just have a lot more resources at their disposal. This MMA Super Cup, I think it's 100 grand prize money for the winner. Was that a big factor? I mean, like, at the end of the day, it costs money to put an organisation together and to be able to send athletes over to tournaments. So how did Ireland's involvement in the Super Cup come about?
We didn't really get a choice. We were invited. We were invited because of all of the athletes over the last 10 years, right back to when Matthew Sheehan won the gold back in Las Vegas. You had Sinead Kavanagh, you had James Gallagher, Franz Malambo, all over there in Vegas. Ryan Spillane, you had all of these guys over the last 10 years. Every Irish athlete that has ever walked out to the IMMAF cage with a tricolour over their shoulder has contributed to the fact that Ireland got invited to the Super Cup, because we are within the top 6 nations. And we've just proven it. We're top 6 again this time. With all the challenges that we had throughout lockdown, we're still top 6. It's the top 8 teams that were chosen for the Super Cup. Of course, Bahrain is going to be up there. Of course, Russia is going to be up there. I think Kazakhstan is number 3. Sweden, I think, is another one in there. Am I right? Or am I thinking of something else? I don't know, but we're in there anyway. So how did it come about? It's because of those athletes. It's because of the 10 years of hard slog that every single coach and athlete who traveled and spent their own money to get there, they put us in this position. So we owe a huge debt of gratitude to every single athlete and coach that has done that over the past 10 years. Definitely the money is awesome. I mean, it would be a lovely problem to have, to try and figure out what to do with that money and how to forward the association and how to get the next wave of athletes through, and what we could do with it. But let's be realistic here. We have to get through Russia, Bahrain, Kazakhstan. This is a tough. This is not about like winning one fight. This is about the entire team beating a team 3 times in a row. So I don't know which team we're going to be matched with for the first round. I think the draw for that is tomorrow. So we might get Kazakhstan. We'll say let's say, for example, we get Kazakhstan. So every single one of our athletes would have to match up with every single one of the Kazakhstan athletes. And if we win more fights than they do, we progress to the semifinals. And then we have to do it all over again. And then we have to do it all over again. So yes, 100 grand would be lovely. Be a nice problem to have if we get there.
Yeah, it
Just
certainly would.
sorry to jump in, Ian, just to clarify, so does that mean that if a fighter loses, say, in the first round, but then more Irish win than, say, Kazakhstanis win, then that Irish fighter who lost will get another go in the second round?
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. It's a team event. It's a phenomenal idea. And I know that Bahrain are always into kind of putting on these exciting spectacles. You know, they took the World Championships 3 years in a row, and every year it was like they were pulling out all the stops. It was just getting cooler and cooler to be in Bahrain. And then they had the Brave show every Friday night when we were out there. All the athletes we brought along to the Brave show. The last Brave show, they had like an open weight tournament, and there was the most expensive professional belt that cost about $500,000 to make, was flown in by a helicopter. So I'm delighted to see them actually push this this energy towards the amateur scene, and this format might catch on. I don't know, maybe another country will pick it up next year and run with it, you know. But it's all good news for the athletes. For the athletes that are going to go to Bahrain, it's all expenses paid as well, so they don't have to worry about raising the money to go there. You just have to worry about winning the nationals. Win the nationals, get out there.
That's good. It's great to be involved in something like that. And, you know, like you said, it's going to be only a positive thing. And I look forward. I think the draw will have taken place by the time this podcast is out. I believe it's set to take place on the 5th or 6th of February. Liam-Óg, we won't keep you too much longer. Just wanted to touch a little bit on the recent announcement of the judges and referees course. If you could just give us a little bit of information on the course itself, perhaps, and how people might be able to join up and take part in that course.
Yeah, so we're very lucky in the last few years that Derek Hickey and Derek Black have, again, like most of the athletes and coaches over the last 10 years, have invested in heading out to the IMMAFs year on year and officiating and refereeing at the highest level under the direct tutelage of Mark Goddard. With huge pressure on their shoulders every single time, and they've carried that back then to the domestic scene where you won't be able to find an MMA event in Ireland with one of the two of them not on it. You know, they're at every Cage Legacy, they're at every novice event. I believe they refereed at some of the Gammas, and they certainly refereed at some of the Cork Opens here. So the two lads have hundreds of I'd say even thousands of fights refereed under the belt, and they are fully qualified under Mark Goddard and under IMMAF. So yes, it's the two lads that are running the refereeing course. They're going to do this one in Cork. We'll try and do another one maybe towards the end of the year in Dublin or Belfast. I believe it's €150 for the 2-day course. I'd have to verify that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. It's open to all IMMA members, and we're looking for as many people as possible to get on there, because there is plenty of room for more officials at domestic shows. We are always struggling to make sure that there's a a 5-person official team at every show. You always have to have the referee in the middle. You have to have your 3 judges cage side, and you have to have somebody to be able to give everybody a break as well. And it's like, particularly with the last couple of months, there was a few times when there was 2 shows on the single night, and then the lads were stretched very, very thin. So trying to get more referees and officials qualified up will help the domestic scene, will help the individual promoters to make sure that they have the highest level of referees and judges looking after the athletes.
The fact that you can actually put these courses on again is like fairly important. So it's fantastic that they're going ahead again. But I guess just to touch on something a little bit different as opposed to the national team and the IMMAF type of area now. As for yourself, SBG Cork has been like, what a breakout year last year was, especially on the pro scene. What's how do you see this upcoming year going for you? And is there any big plans ahead?
No major big plans, just keep doing what we're doing. It seems to be working at the moment. Palahan is fighting on April 29th. He's out in Miami again. So he'll be fighting the last fight on his current contract. We're hoping to up his contract after that. So big year for him. I believe he has a huge future in that company. And he's working really hard. I'm hoping to get Ryan Spillane back in there.
Sorry to jump across. Do you have an opponent for Pal yet?
We do, yeah. I couldn't tell you what his name is. He's from Guatemala, I think. He's 3-2. He's a striker. He has a couple of knockouts on his record.
Yeah, I actually broke the news last week. It's Gabriel Morales.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good matchup for Pa. It's a striker, so he'll be looking to put on a show. I think Pa is going to be too quick for Gabriel. I think he's going to use his typical in and out style and just pick points and wear him down and eventually get him out of there either at the end of the first round or in the middle of the second round. It's kind of Pa's MO at these things. I'm hoping to get Ryan Spillane back in, hopefully April, May. He's just kind of at a rebuilding phase at the moment. He didn't have a great start to his pro career, having achieved 3 gold medals at IMMAF level. To kind of start his pro career the way he did, it doesn't do justice to the level he's at, and he's a little bit disappointed in how things went. So we've gone back to the drawing board. We've been working a lot on stuff that we feel that may have kind of cropped up in his both his first 2 pro fights. So hopefully we'll have that sorted within the 6-month period, and April, May we'll look to bounce back from that. The amateur guys, Ethan, Dan, Kerry, Abenu's looking to turn pro. We say maybe late summer, maybe towards the autumn. Yeah, there's just everything's happening. We have a lot of youth athletes coming up that will be going into the amateur phase by the end of this year as well. So you'll hear a lot more about us all year long.
Great, that's perfect to hear. And if you want to see any more information on Paz fight, head over to SevereMMA.com. He's set to fight Gabriel Morales on April 29th. I'm looking forward to seeing. Pa had an unbelievable breakout year last year, and he certainly does have a big future in Combate Global. I'm looking forward to seeing Ryan getting back in there into the win column too, and seeing everybody else. And wish you nothing but success for the rest of the year, Liam-Óg. Hopefully we'll have you on again to talk about a few more things, more SBG Cork stuff, more IMMAF stuff. We appreciate the time that you've taken to speak with us today. All the best to you, sir, and we'll talk to you the next time. Is there any shout outs, anything you'd like to say before you sign off?
No, just for all the amateur athletes out there, get your name into that nationals. I know by the time this goes out, it might have already closed, but look, if you didn't quite get the memo and tonight is the first time you're hearing about it, send us a message. We will do our best to accommodate everybody. So get yourselves in there, and just shout out to everybody that's supporting Irish MMA at the moment. Severe lads are doing very, very well. The Energized crew, I'm going to forget everybody if I start naming them now. But I once again, the athletes were absolutely very, very appreciative of the level of support that came from the Irish MMA community this trip around, and we thank you very much for that. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.
And thank you once again to Liam-Óg Griffin for coming on and joining us today. I mean, an excellent interview. I think there is no better man to have on after that who can just explain the amount of work that goes into those tournaments, not alone by the fighters, but by the coaches, by the backroom team. And, you know, I think he was excellent in some of the things that he did say. And maybe if there's anything you'd like to unpack after that interview, Andy, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, what was kind of most intriguing to me, you know, I asked on the interview about the national championships, or not the national championships, but the Super Cup, and the fact that it's team versus team. So I just find that very interesting. Like, I've never really seen anything like that before, where it's you know, you're going in as a country, and then you either falter or you improve and advance as a country. So, you know, if you lose a match, you can be back in it. So I thought that was quite interesting. It's something that's quite unique in my opinion.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I mean, Caoilte, we mentioned on that interview that, you know, yourself and Andy are looking to head up to the national championships. Is that something that you're looking forward to doing? They're coming on in the next couple of weeks. I think it's a very important thing, like Liam-Óg said, like we were saying on that interview, you know, it's such an important thing to have to progress IMMAF as an organization.
Yeah, it's massive for the Irish scene that now there's a platform where they can fight numerous times in one day and get that experience in against the best in the country, and also prove themselves to the best in the country. I'm really excited. As you said, it's a huge step forward. It's massive for the development of the sport, the athletes, of the national team, everything. So that's going to be fantastic, and I'm really excited to see some of the fights. Some of those brackets are ridiculous. Like, you're going to see some cracking fights there. As I think Liam-Óg said as well to us, he goes, there's some fights there that you look at and think promoters would love it. Like, they really would, and they love some of those fights.
Yeah, Caoilte, just to jump in, you and I have talked about Jordan Fury and a few other guys in that is it the super welterweight or the welterweight division? I forget.
Welterweight. I think he's in a different one. But then you've Conor McCarthy as well. Like, that division, Andy. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Look, if you're watching this, keep an eye on this national championships, because there are going to be some fights in here that are unreal. Like, there's fighters who I'm looking at on regional shows and I'm thinking, okay, like, you know, I'm standing back being like, wow, I don't know, this is the first time I've maybe seen this amateur fighter fight, and now this is someone who I've gone and followed them on every social media channel, and I'm never missing their fights again, because this is one who I want to watch their rise. But then in the same division, you might have two or three others, and it's like, well, I have no idea how it's going to play out when they collide. But when you have when you're looking closely at amateur fighters and you're getting really hyped about them, to then have two of them go against each other, I don't know, it gets me excited anyway.
Yeah, it definitely gets me excited too. Like, I mean, you're spot on. Like, you know, Irish MMA has kind of been at a small bit of a halt with COVID, with no shows and stuff going on. But, you know, regulations are slowly lifting now, and we're going to see a big turnaround when it comes to shows going on and events happening as well. So, you know, we'll be doing our best on this show to kind of cover all those local shows and also cover the amateur scene as well. And like Andy said, some of the talent that's coming up is unbelievable now. And, you know, they're going to be live streaming the event. I would suggest that anyone go out there and get that live stream and watch the fighters as they're fighting. You know, it's your chance to get a head start on everybody else and watch the progression of these fighters on the amateur level before they make the jump over to the professional level, because we're going to see a massive wave of Irish talent coming through into the professionals. And, you know, we're even seeing a sprinkle of it right now on the scene, with the likes of John Mitchell coming up and Paul Lahan and many others that we'll probably talk about, that we talked about with Liam-Óg as well. And, you know, I'm excited for it. I'm buzzing to see the national championships. I'm going to be watching over here. Andy and Caoilte will be at the event doing some work. We'll all be keeping everybody as updated as we can. If you can tune in and watch yourselves, so make sure and try and catch any of the guys on their social media handles, or SevereMMA.com will be updating it as the tournament progresses as well. So we'll move right along from one interview into another interview, lads, as we have Nadine Abab-Bisset, Atomweight World Champion.
Champ is here.
Yeah, she is here. She's decided to come and join us. And I'm glad that she came on. I mean, it was a no-brainer for us to have Nadine on speaking with us after the fantastic achievement that she pulled off at the IMMAF Championships. We'll go talk in depth about how she felt going into the tournament, and she'll give us a good breakdown on how things have went there as well. So without further ado, let's bring on Nadine Abbott-Bissett. And now we'd like to welcome to the Auld Triangle, Nadine Abab-Bisset, gold medal winner of the Atomweight division at the recent IMMAF World Championships. Nadine, thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on your gold medal. And I'd just like to...
Champ is here.
Yeah, the champ is here. And I'd just like to ask you, how does it feel? You're a gold medal winner now. You know, you got over the hurdle of... you had some silver medals wins before. You got over the final hurdle. You picked up your gold medal. How did it feel for you to actually get that gold medal and to achieve that overall?
Oh, it was unreal. It was. It didn't even feel real until I actually got home. I was like, right, I've actually won it. Even afterwards, I didn't even celebrate properly. I just went home, went straight to bed in the hotel. But yeah, when I woke up the next day, I was like, oh, thank God.
Well, was it much of a mental hurdle for you, Nadine, to kind of, get over that final, get to that gold medal position? You had performed before and got those silver medals, and was it a bit of extra pressure on you going into this tournament maybe to try and perform and get to that gold medal spot?
Yeah, so yeah, I took silver twice before, so it was like I had to get the gold medal this time, wasn't it? Third time lucky. I was delighted. I was chuffed going in. Because I fought her back in 2019, so I knew she wanted to kill me. I beat her by split decision back then, so we both wanted it.
Did anything surprise you about the win, or not the win, about the final itself?
I knew she has really good striking. I knew that, so I was like, right. I knew my striking has got better since we last fought, so I was like, right, I will stand with her. And she hit me a couple of nice shots, but then I just kept pressing forward, and I was like, right, it's a fight now.
Nadine, over the whole, after that fight in particular, you had a bit of a shiner. You can clearly see that first round was tough. But overall in the entire tournament, and going back overall three fights, what was the entire experience like? And even the build up to the final, walking out and that, all the pyrotechnics going on around you, what was all that like?
Oh yeah, it was unbelievable. The final, walking out, you seen yourself, it was just, you never see it anywhere else, an amateur. My first day actually, because I haven't fought since 2019, so my first fight I was nervous walking out. I got sick before I went to Jerry and Kieran, I'll tell you. They were holding the booking for me, and I literally puked before we were waiting in the hallway. I got sick in the book, and then I was like, right, I feel fresh now. Now I'm ready to go.
So you got sick and then went out and mauled the poor Kazakhstani girl.
Yeah.
She was probably
you
were getting sick before the fight. She was probably getting sick after that maul, and it was crazy, man. I mean, looking at your performances throughout the tournament, it was utterly dominating, Nadine. I mean, from that first fight, right? Obviously, the competition is going to get harder throughout, but was there any doubt in your mind when the final bell rang for the final that? Were you confident that you had got the win? I know things can be different when you're inside the cage. Me looking from the outside, I was confident. I knew it was a close fight, but I was pretty confident that you were going to get the win. And I'm just wondering, did you feel the same in there?
Yeah, I felt the same afterwards. But coming out of the first round, I definitely thought I lost the first round. I thought she landed better shots and she got the takedown in the last minute of the round. So going into the second round, Kieran even said to me, he's like, you probably lost that round. So I was like, right, I have to go now. Then I think I took her back for over 2.5 minutes of the second round. And then the third round, yeah, I knew it. I was like, yeah, I had to have secured that now.
One thing that you touched on there, and that was Kieran Davern, who was in your corner. And one thing that really stood out to me throughout the tournament, and especially in your fights as well, is that his guidance and his advice in the corner was really excellent for me looking from the outside in. How important was it to you?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, he was unreal in my corner. I could hear him so clearly. Sometimes you can't really hear what people are saying, but I could hear every word he was saying to me, and it was just a perfect instruction. Just a little thing I needed. It was left arm underneath, and I just do it straight away, and it worked perfect. Like, even like throughout, you hear him, he's like complete domination and all. Like, he just knows exactly what to say. Let the judges know as well.
Nadine, when you reflect back on the tournament as a whole, you know, you had that dominant win, the first win in the quarterfinals over Kazakhstan, you know, submission, another masterclass performance in the semis against India and a TKO, and then obviously winning the finals. Which was your favorite performance looking back?
I think the final, definitely, yeah, because it was a bit of everything. There was striking, grabbing, like I had to overcome. She was throwing big shots at me. I had to fight back. Then, like, grapple, I had her back. I had to try to get a submission. She got me an armbar at the end of round 1. Like, I think it was back and forward, but I definitely pushed on a bit more.
Was it because the quarterfinals and semifinals were more dominant for you that, you know, there was more adversity to overcome in the final? Is that why?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, like, I don't even think I broke a sweat in the first fight. Then the second fight was good. Like, I kind of just beat her. I was just better, and then the third fight was like, right, this was it. Like, it was back and forward a bit, but yeah, I think that was my favourite fight.
Nadine, one thing I noticed throughout the week, and I've been dying to figure it out, is the Irish team have there's been a lot of pictures, I guess, on Instagram with the Iraq team, and I met some of them, and they're lovely. But how did that happen, and what happened there?
They were in the same hotel as us, because, you know, we all split up in different hotels, all the teams. So one night we were just down training, and I think it was me, Jamie, Gary Rooney, Sean, Paddy. We were all there. It was late. It was about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and they were the only team there as well. But they don't speak any English, so they just looked at us and tipped all and was pointing at us. We were like, "What?" Like, we're like, "Well, us." So we were like, "You want to go?" So they're like, "Yeah." So every single one. So there was one of each of them, all their weights, and we all just rolled with them. And then we just got every night. They used to come down and train with us every night. Then we spar. They hold pads for us and all. And they're a great little team.
Who taught them a bit of Irish? I saw them posting some up on Instagram or something.
They kept going to Google Translate and getting stuff up for us.
You mentioned Sean O'Bannon there. You know, she was over there as a brand ambassador. I know that my hearing only kind of came back a couple of days after the tournament, because the shouts and roars of her in the crowd was unbelievable there. She provided a great support.
To a brand ambassador.
No, she was more like a Team Ireland ambassador than anything else. But, like, she was a great support to you, and I know to Sarah Carney and a few of the others over there. I mean, was that important for you?
Yeah. The whole team, I think, as a whole, was a great support. You could hear everyone. Gary Rooney, you can hear his voice from a mile away. Shauna, then Jamie, like Taylor, all their voices you can hear.
Nadine, obviously your brother Jamie was over there and competing as well. You know, how important is it for you to have him there for you and growing up and coming up together and to support the sport? And I know that, you know, the Energized boys were trying to stir some shit between you guys as well, you know, about finishing fights and not finishing fights and stuff. So, but, like, overall, how is it important to have Jamie there for you and to have him as a training partner and such?
Yeah, they love the trouble, don't they, the Energized boys? They love causing the gaff. I know, it's great, yeah. Jamie's one of my main training partners up in Team Rhino. We know, he knows everything I'm going to do in the fight. I know everything he's going to do. So, like, we just work perfect together. He's great. He's small as well, like, so great body for me. And he was a great supporter there. Let me kill him before I went out for the final.
Nadine, what were you yelling up at him? Are you guys quite competitive as siblings? And what were you yelling up at him about finishing?
He got I think he got 2 10-8 rounds the day before. Like, he had a really dominant performance. So then I went out and I got a finish, and I shouted up and I said, "Yeah, well, I got the finish."
Before we move on maybe to what's ahead for you, Nadine, one thing that really stood out to me was your ability to take your opponent's backs. I think some of your back takes throughout the tournament were absolutely unbelievable. And as you're dominating Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, was this something that you're really putting some extra focus on before you go out there? Because, you know, amateur fights are 3-round fights. I think what we were saying, maybe dominating positions are a little bit more important on the amateur scene than they would be maybe as you go on to professional. And was that something that you wanted to put some extra focus on?
Yeah, I'd I love working my jiu-jitsu. That'd be my main thing that I work. But the back is my favourite. I love taking the back and training any position that I'm in, even if I'm in mount, I'll take the back off it. So like even when I'm standing, I'm just thinking how will I get to the back. So yeah, I think I took the back into 3 fights with like kind of the same move. So I was delighted with that because I was working that and training the last few months.
Nice.
Paul
And
Redman says that you're the Jansport backpack, is it?
He always likes me, tells you.
and
He can't even get me off his back.
how proud are you to be able to represent Team Rhino and have Andy Ryan there to see you take the gold medal?
Yeah, I love it. I love the club. Yeah, it's like a big family. So I was delighted taking the gold medal. I'm the 2nd gold medalist in Team Rhino now. So chuffed with that.
As we're going on, what do we expect to see in the future, Nadine? Are you looking to stay competing at amateur level? Are you looking to the pro ranks right now?
I'm just taking it one fight at a time now. I'm gonna do the nationals in 2 weeks. So win that and then maybe go for the Europeans in
Nice.
summer. I think that might be June or something like that. So there's no one really my weight in Ireland. So go over to the IMMAF, I get like 3 fights in a week, 3-4 fights. So hopefully if I go over in June, then
I wanted to ask you about that, Nadine. You know, we've only seen you at the IMMAF tournaments. Is that why? Is it because you can't get fights in Ireland maybe at that weight that we haven't seen you fighting on domestic shows, or why haven't we?
I'm too good to fight in Ireland. No, yeah. There's no one really in Ireland at the weight. There's one girl up north, Caoilte. She's the only really girl. She's Team Rhino, Oma. That's really the only atomweight that I know of in Ireland. So yeah, I've just went over to the IMMAF because like I can get up to 3-4 fights over there. So it's great.
Just one on you said you're looking at going to the Euros. Is that Magdalena fight one that you're eager to get back? And I know
that's the one fight that keeps me awake at night.
Were you gutted when you found out that she wasn't in the tournament?
Yeah, I was devastated. I would have loved to get her in the 4th round because then it was like, yeah, you need to do it, like, you know. I think I've improved a lot since we fought. She probably improved as well, so that's one fight that I'd love to get back.
Nadine, what was the reaction like to your win? Like, how did your family react? And you know, I guess what has been the reaction as a whole like been for you since coming home to Ireland?
They were all delighted for me. They all wanted to wait at the airport for me, and unfortunately, the flight got delayed. I ended up being about 10 hours late home, so they were all waiting all day, and then realised I wasn't coming home. So yeah, they were waiting with flags, everything. But yeah, no, everyone's chill for me.
Just last one here for me is out of all the coaches you've had, including Davy Fitz, who's the toughest? And who's the loudest as well?
Davy's definitely the loudest. No one can be louder than that man. Andy's the toughest though, 100%. Even after I won. Right, shut up now, you won. Back to training.
Have you spoke to Davy Fitz after coming? Does he even talk to you after the show?
Yeah, we did. We kept in touch after the show because we want to go back and do it again this year. We kept in touch with him and he said, yeah, no problem, come back.
Has he had any reaction to you winning a world title?
No, not yet. I must get on to him. Yeah, I must get on to him.
Are you surprised? Actually, that's an interesting one. Like, you know, the mainstream coverage of MMA is to an extent non-existent in Ireland. Thankfully, I saw an article recently about, you know, Sinead Kavanagh and Liam McCord, but having gone on a big show on RTE, are you surprised that, you know, maybe the national broadcaster hasn't reached out to you when you've won a world title?
Yeah, I know. I was everywhere on our family when I broke the record. I think every newspaper had me in it. And yeah, I won a world title and it's like, no, we don't care.
Is that disappointing for you?
It is, yeah, but what can you do? Like,
you may go up to the RTE studios with that gold medal and just wall sit up outside the offices until they do.
I'll just go back to Fit Family this year and bring my medal with me.
That's it, yeah, that's what you need to do. Yeah. Well, we won't keep you any longer, Nadine. We really appreciate the time that you've taken to speak with us today. A massive congratulations to you on winning the gold medal. It's an absolutely phenomenal achievement, and you know, you might not get the coverage that you deserve nationally, but we were proud as punch watching you on that podium.
We'll clap you out.
We definitely will.
Thanks a lot, lads.
Well, no, we really appreciate it. We're delighted for you. We wish you all the best in the national championships. We wish you all the best for the rest of the year, and hopefully you'll be able to come on and talk to us again in the future. We'd be delighted to have you on anytime. And once again, congratulations, Nadine. Is there anybody that you'd like to shout out, or sponsors or anything like that you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Just my team Rhino, the best team in the country.
Yeah, fantastic interview there with Nadine, and we really appreciate the time she took to speak with us after that fight. I mean, I know we can say it once, we can say it 10 times, we can say it 100 times, Caoilte, but that was really and truly a phenomenal achievement from Nadine to go over to that level of competition and bring home the gold medal in the atomweight division. I mean, she truly is the best in the world at that weight class at amateur level, and I can't wait to see her progress in the national championships. And as she was saying there as well, you know, she's looking to perform in other amateur championships down the line as well. And not easy for somebody like Nadine to kind of get that level of competition. Like she was saying, there was only herself and Caitlin really at atomweight in Ireland right now. So to kind of get the training partners or the level of competition to get those fights, she really is having to go to the world stage to get that, and it's a credit to her for her success.
Absolutely. Like she's probably training with mostly people who are like much heavier than her, and then having to go, you know, it's very difficult to get any fights at that weight regionally, as you're saying. And then obviously you'll have to travel always. So why go over to the UK, for example, for one fight when you can prepare for something like the Euros, the Worlds, and take on these girls from all across the world and literally you figure out then just how good you are. And she showed us how good she was. She was phenomenal throughout that tournament. I'm really excited to see her come back in the Euros. There's a few fights. I think as we said there, that Magdalena Japan fight, that is the one I think I'd love to see that fight at the Euros. I think Nadine would like to see it as well, as she'd like to have that one. But if we can see her a few more times this year, we could see some more gold medals come back to Ireland if she keeps performing like that.
Well, I'd never get sick of watching Nadine perform. I thought she was absolutely sensational that tournament. Like, I mean, she didn't just go in there and get the job done, Andy. She went in there and absolutely dominated her opponents, like we spoke about during the interview as well. I mean, she really is a really top prospect on the amateur scene, and she will be for many years to come. I believe she's only 21 years of age, or 22, and I mean, she's a phenomenal talent.
There's a grit and a tenacity about her that I think is very revealing. Though, you know, when you watch her fight, but also speaking to her, you know, the fact that she's referencing, I forget the name now, but Magdalena, the fighter who beat her previously at the Euros, and she wanted her in the first round. You know, there's a mental toughness there. I know this is nothing to do with MMA, but the fact that she was on that Ireland's Fittest Family show and she broke the record or something for the wall sit of anyone who'd ever done it on the show, and like it's very much physical, but that's mental. That's a mental side that you need, that doggedness and that never give up attitude. And you know, the first two fights that she had in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, it was going her way. You know, she was the hammer and they were very much the nail, but when it came to the final, she had to go through that adversity. She was getting pieced up a bit, and she found a way to overcome that. And you know, Paul Redmond throughout the tournament kept calling her the Jansport backpack. I think she called it like the Tasmanian Devil as well, or something like that. But her ability to get to the back is astounding. Like, you can tell that she, look, I know I'm never going to be someone who's going to give you the in-depth breakdown of how to fight or technique. That's not me. But even to someone like me who isn't, you know, technically sound in the inner workings of MMA, I think it's pretty obvious that she works with people who are a lot bigger than her, a lot stronger than her, and she has to use her technique to be able to, her smarts and her technique to be able to get into those advantageous positions where, you know, it doesn't matter that she's the smaller one. She's got your back. She's got the hooks in, and she's looking for a sub. And I was just blown away by her completely. I hope that she's able to get more fights. I would like to see her fight in the domestic scene, and not, you know, the IMMAFs are great and all, but they're only every so often, so I'd like to see her fighting more frequently. And if she is on a path towards becoming a pro, I don't know if that's, we didn't really ask her if that's what her goal is, but I'm 100% tuning in to any Nadine Abab-Bisset fight from now on.
Yeah, it seemed to me from the interview, you know, that her foreseeable future is definitely going to be in the amateur ranks, but there's no doubt that she is going to be wanting to perform as a professional as well. And, you know, there's some good options for her out there. You know, Invicta would be one that would stand out for me. I think she would fit in absolutely perfect at Invicta FC. So it'll be interesting to see what her progression is. And as we move along after that interview, we'll just go into, you know, it's been a couple of weeks since you were last with us, and there has been some news stories that have popped up on the Irish MMA scene, and we're going to take you through a couple of those news stories right now. The first being Richie Smullen. He's going to be going in there to fight Miroslav Dushynok on February 20 for the lightweight title for Ukrainian promotion, Real Fight Promotion, which are a Ukrainian promotion. That's at RFP 88. It'll be on February 20th. I mean, Richie has the chance to become champ there. You know, he took the featherweight title back in October, I believe, of last year as well. And it's great to see Richie getting the opportunity over there over in Ukraine. Maybe some quick thoughts on that, Andy?
Yeah, I think this is pretty significant. Richie Smullen, you know, one, it's significant because he's fighting for a second title. Two, he just won a title, and didn't just win it, like he won it by TKO. Like, he was a dominant performance, got the finish. And when you look at Richie Smullen, you know, since that loss to Luis Pena on, was it the Tough 27 finale a few years ago, I think it was, he's had 3 finishes, a title, and now he's fighting for a second title, and he's gone 5-1 since then. That one loss, which was, I think it was split decision to Albert Diaz, your man had that mad hat, in at one of the Bellator Dublin shows. So, you know, Richie Smullen has been putting on a great run, and I would like to see him signed by the UFC if he can get a win here, if he can get that second title. I think, why not? You know, he should be, I hope that's where he's going, is making that run back towards the UFC. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how Richie gets on here. And he's, you know, Richie's one of these guys who you never hear him in interviews. You never, he's not one to talk trash. He just kind of puts his head down, gets the work done. And sometimes it might not be the most, you know, highlight reel knockout, but it'll be a dogged, brutal, in a damaging sense, performance from Richie Smullen. So he just lets his fight and do the talking.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, you know, it's great to see Richie there with the chance to fight for his second professional title, with the first one being the featherweight title win. So onwards and upwards for Richie as we move along to probably the most recent breaking news, which you can see on SevereMMA.com, and that's the pro debut of Shauna Bannon. She's set to headline the Cage Legacy 15 card, which is going to take place on April 9th at the Pillow Hotel in Ashburn. I mean, we were all talking Sean up after her win in the last Cage Legacy cards, and she had a fantastic win against Chanel Dyer. Caoilte, how excited are you to see Shauna making her pro debut? And are you glad that it's on Irish soil and it's with a promotion like Cage Legacy?
I'm absolutely buzzing for this fight. I will hopefully be able to go up and see it. Like, MMA is like in Meath recently. Never heard of that one before. It's usually in Dublin, but yeah, in Meath it's fantastic. So I'll hopefully get to go up, and I'm excited for that. Her opponent, Kerry Isom, 1-on-1 now, kind of been fighting around the UK scene for quite a long time. They both share a common defeat in Dakota Teixeira. So I imagine, like, this is a really good debut, and I'm delighted that's headlining as well. We need pro fights outside of just Bellator in Ireland, and the fact that Cage Legacy are actually bringing pro fights and putting them on in Ireland. I know you have Cage Conflict up north as well doing things like this and Clan Wars. But the fact that Cage Legacy are doing this so close is it's phenomenal, and I'm really excited. And they're bringing fighters across from the UK for this card as well. So yeah, it's great. It's good solid fight for a title as well. Be interested to see her move down to strawweight, because I think this is her first time at strawweight, if I'm not wrong there.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
How many she's fought at? Bantamweight, flyweight, now strawweight. She's
going through the divisions, that's for sure. She's keeping me guessing. I actually broke the fight as a flyweight fight, but I was corrected quickly and gladly. But yeah, this is at strawweight. She'll have a chance to pick up her first professional title on her professional debut. I mean, that would be a phenomenal achievement on its own, and it's great that it's an Irish side. It's great that it's with Cage Legacy too. I agree with you there. I think the lads Declan and Darren are doing some phenomenal work over there at Cage Legacy, and they're going to have a couple of big shows, and I'm sure that we'll have some of the lads on to talk about those shows a little closer to the time. Andy,
do we know if this is going to be 5-5s, if this is a title?
No, that hasn't been confirmed as of yet, to be honest.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to find that out. Like, this is interesting to me in the sense that, look, it's her first professional fight, so having a title to me isn't as important right now. What I'm looking to see is, she's transitioned from 3-minute rounds to 5-minute rounds. How's she going to look there? But then additionally, she's gone from flyweight down to strawweight, having previously competed at bantamweight. So the title is kind of irrelevant in this instance to me. What I'm looking to see out of Shauna is, how does she deal with that transition from amateur to pro? How does she look fighting 5-minute rounds? And then in addition to that, how does she look with having to cut more weight and then also fighting 5-minute rounds? So it's quite interesting. Shauna Bannon's shined throughout. 2021 was the year of Shauna Bannon. So very excited to see how she does. But yeah, just the more I think about it, that's what intrigues me most now, is how she deals with that adjustment. Yeah,
and the decision on how long the fight will be basically down to Cage Legacy. I've seen some fights at Cage Conflict. I've seen some pro fights that have gone 3 5-minute rounds. We've seen others that have been scheduled for 5-minute rounds. And as more news comes out, as the news broke, we have yet to hear official word from Cage Legacy yet, but all the signs are pointing towards that fight is surely going to be happening, and maybe we'll have more information on that when this podcast is released. But yeah, as we move along, Andy, speak to me about Dario Sinagoga. He's fighting at Battlefield FC. He's fighting also for a title.
Yeah, he's fighting for the interim lightweight title at Battlefield FC. So my understanding is that their current champion was he was on Dana White's Contender Series. I think he lost his fight, but then there's the potential for him fighting again in April. So that title's kind of up for grabs. Dario Sinagoga, he used to train out in Bray, and he's in the last number of years made the move out over to Vancouver. So he's training at a Diaz Combat Sports in Vancouver. So he's one I'm kind of keeping an eye on. He seems to be putting together a nice little run out there. He fought at amateur over in Canada, and now he's made the transition to pro. And he's also fighting in the main event. So he's putting together a nice run for himself. So I'd be interested to see how he gets on here, and he's definitely one to kind of keep an eye on as his career progresses. Flying under the radar a bit because he's not fighting out of Ireland anymore. But yeah, keep an eye on Dario Sinagoga.
Yeah, I've caught a couple of his fights, and yeah, he's based. I think he's training out of Vancouver as well, and I think that I want to say that the fight might be available on UFC Fight Pass, but I can't say that for sure right now. But we can give you an update on that in future episodes for sure. As we move right along, guys, to John Mitchell's fight is going to be happening at UAE Warriors. A fighter that I'm really excited to see is John Mitchell. That fight is supposed to take place at a future UAE Warriors event on March 19th. He's set to face on Mariusz Mazer, who is a Polish fighter. It'll be at a catchweight, I believe, of 72 kg. Andy, I know that you've spoken to John Mitchell before. he spoke to me just ahead of this fight as I broke it, and you can head over to SevereMMA.com to check out that full news and what he said. But one thing that stood out to me is when I asked him about his expectations going into 2022 is that he wanted to win a couple of bigger fights with UAE Warriors in 2022 before making the jump over to the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, there's no rush. You're 4-0. John Mitchell, for me, is one of the most intriguing prospects in Irish MMA and potentially one of the most talented. I don't think he should be thinking about the UFC just yet. Not that he's not talented enough to get there in a couple of fights. But for me, I think having that mentality of I want bigger fights, he's looked very, very good. But when we look back at his opponents, okay, Eric Nolan in his debut, that was a savage fight. That was an unbelievable fight. And Eric Nolan's a game fighter. Alan Brajkalski, he got the quick finish there. And then Arbemiev was really, you can't take much from that fight. It was dominant. He battered him. But Arbemiev is nowhere near John Mitchell's level. Then he had the fight with Konstantinos and Tellis, and that's where Konstantinos was a Greek prospect coming in, and I was again really impressed with how John handled him. So I want to see John continue to take these gradual steps up in competition, and I wouldn't mind even seeing him fight for a title at some point in UAE Warriors, and then looking to move on to the UFC. But yeah, supremely talented, a very high ceiling, but for now, let's just take it one step at a time.
Yeah, I mean, Caoilte, you've seen John fight. I'm high on John Mitchell. I definitely agree with what Andy is saying there. He's a supremely talented guy. I would like to see him in a few high profile fights with UAE Warriors, and then we can talk about UFC and the likes. But I think, he definitely has the talent. He definitely has the grit and determination to get to the UFC. Would you tend to agree with that?
100%. He's phenomenal to watch. I love watching him strike. He is he's so talented on the feet. And he's vicious, especially when it comes to ground and pound as well. He's so good. I'd be quite high on him now, but as Andy said, there's no rush. Take a step by step, maybe get a title. I'd love to see him fight for a title. Then we'd have a first Irish champion UAE Warriors, which would be pretty cool. And then see where it goes from there. They're well on the UAE Warriors are well on the radar of the UFC, so it's a perfect place to build your record and get your name out there.
Yeah, 100%. And moving along, another fight that will be taking place in UAE Warriors is a fight between Kenny Mokahana. He's set to take on Mohamed Kamara, who's 4-1, who's fighting out of Florida right now. I mean, this is a tough fight for Kenny. I think that Mohamed Kamara is a pretty decent fighter, but I spoke Kenny for an article that will be out this week. Kamara was saying he was the king and he's the next big thing in the featherweight division. Kenny is kind of alluding to the fact that he needs to lay off the Muhammad Ali videos and that he's going to look like a donkey when he loses and stuff like that. I mean, Caoilte, talk to me about Kamara. I know that you've seen him fighting before. He is really an uber prospect, as is Kenny Mokahana. He's at 2-0. I'm really excited to see this fight. This is going to be a proper barn burner.
Geez, this fight has picked up quite a lot of traction straight from the off. It's one thing I noticed is I remember logging onto Twitter and seeing this fight all over my timeline. Yeah, should be fantastic. I watched Kenny's last two pro fights in last year. One was Clan Wars and the other Cage Conflict. Finished them both via submission. He's very well rounded, looks very dangerous, very strong fighter, and he's got a very high ceiling, and he's in a perfect place with UAE Warriors to kind of build a good record against some international opposition.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it'll be the first time that Kenny said it'll be the first time he'll be fighting down at featherweight, and his coaches wanted him to make that move, that he's walking around at a natural weight of 155. And maybe I'll just move over to you real quickly, Andy. Do you think that the move down to the featherweight division is something that's going to suit Kenny?
I think the proof will be in the pudding. I don't know is the answer, but we're going to find out. It's by the sounds of it, it's a tough fight. Anyone who's getting profiled by MMA fighting, they're not going to just do that for no reason. So I think he probably has a tough fight in his hands here, but he's looked fantastic lately, and beating someone like Adam Shelley, who is a very slick striker. I think Kenny can be well within his rights to think that he's got more than a shot at winning this fight. He'll be going in there to win. As far as the move down to featherweight, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
It will be definitely interesting to see. Moving along to a couple of fights that were announced. Caoilte, if you want to bring us through the couple of fights that were announced this week for Cage Conflict. I think before we go into that, Cage Conflict, I think, and Cage Legacy are really setting the standard when it comes to putting on cards and putting on shows. I think Cage Conflict shows last year were phenomenal. They're unbelievable talent up there, and I mean, I can't wait for this next one. It's stacked. We spoke about Ger Harris and Kieran Mulholland that are going to be fighting on the main event of this next Cage Conflict 6. Takamandu has been announced to fight on home soil. But take us through. We have 3 particular ones that we have announced for today that have been announced during the week.
Yeah, of course. There's, as you said, Cage Conflict almost set a standard last year of putting on ridiculously stacked cards between pro and amateur. And they just continue to add to this. I think we have Team KF's Takamandu against Giorgio. Oh, lads, I'm going to butcher it. Accorinti.
Oh, beautiful.
Accorinti.
I need to get some Italians to help me with my pronunciation.
I have to get Alzaino on to give us a hand with a couple of those names.
I'm going to get him a voice note after this now. Then we've got Jared Burns making his professional debut. He fights out of FAI, and he's going to be taking on Stefan Istach. Going to take a guess there again with the names. And then last of the announcements, Scott Harvey of SBG Charlestown is making his pro debut against Kieran Breslin. Now, that is a very intriguing fight. I'm looking forward to. Kieran Breslin looked good in his last fight, and haven't really seen much of Scott Harvey, but he's well known around the scene. He's been, especially with some of his training partners and who he's affiliated with. So that should be a good one.
Yeah, what do you guys think? I think that Liam Shannon and Pat McAllister are doing a great job with that show. And there's more matchups as well. Actually, I'm just seeing. So we've got Owen McDonald and Carl McConway fighting for an amateur bantamweight title. There's Sean McCormack and Petru Pleska fighting fighting at pro. And then an interesting one that I'm intrigued by is Nikola Ivanovic versus Mark Andrew. Now, Nikola Ivanovic is 0-4 and Mark Andrew's 1-6. So this is, I love this matchmaking. It's one of those ones where they're both really struggling in their career as far as getting a win and their records. And this is kind of saying, right, let's put them in together, and someone's got to win this one.
It's kind of die a dog or shit the license for one of those two guys.
Yeah, but if you I spoke to Reece McKee previously and he is so impressed by Mark Andrew. Mark Andrew seems to be one of these fighters who is very high level, but for whatever reason is just not able to deliver the result when it comes to fight night, based off his results to date. That's, you can't really argue with that. So it's not like we're having two cans in here with crappy records going in and fighting each other. These are two fighters who are solid, but are looking for a win. So I like that matchmaking. And then, as you said, the rest of them there. And I think there's actually a heavyweight bout as well between, which you love to see a heavyweight bout in a regional show, is against David Piotrovic and Oliver Basil. So again, that's pro debut out of Fight Academy Ireland for David Piotrovic, and an 0-1 out of Crescent MMA for Oliver Basil. So lots of fights. And yeah, echo the sentiments. I think Cage Conflict are doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely cracking card lined up there, and I can't wait to look at that. And as the card gets closer, we'll be looking more in depth into that. Hopefully have maybe one of the lads on the fight that's fighting on the card on with us for a chat. Moving on, Palahan's fight announcement: Gabriel Morales, Combatche Global, April 29th. We spoke to Liam-Óg about that. We won't touch base too much on that. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit closer to the fight. Palahan, one of Ireland's top prospects, and had a phenomenal 2021. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. Will Fleury was kind of flirting with us with a fight announcement. Nothing that was confirmed yet, but he has a title fight coming up. As we'll probably talk about that a little bit more as news breaks or as we gather more information. No ideas where or who or what is happening with that title fight, but we can expect Will Fleury to be fighting for a title. I, for one, I'm delighted that Will is getting an opportunity. I hope that it's going to be in a good upper echelon, if you want to call it, promotion. I think Will has had a difficult couple of years. He hasn't had things go his way. I think that he was wrongfully cut from Bellator. I don't think he should have lost that Bellator contract at all. He came back, got a good win. Unfortunately, broke his hand in the fight. This will be his return fight. It will be for a title. I'm delighted for Will, and I'm excited to see what situation unfolds for him. And maybe I'll go over to you, Andy. I know you've spoke to Will before, as have I. You know, Will is a top guy, and he deserves this shot, and he deserves his chance to get a fight for the title.
100%. Will is a throwback to the fighters coming up in the Irish scene, you know, of yesteryear, where they'll go anywhere. They'll go into enemy territory and fight whoever is put in front of them, and they won't care, and they'll give it their best shot. And Will Fleury, I couldn't agree more with what you just said, was wrongfully cut from Bellator. You know, and it wasn't just Will Fleury. Like, there's been a few fighters where you're thinking, what are we doing here? What do they need to show you? Like, obviously, he had the loss to Norbert Navendi Jr., but Norbert Navendi Jr. is a savage. Like, he is an uber prospect. And then he comes back from that to get a first round finish over Justin Moore, and he gets released. That, I don't get what Bellator are doing there. From there, he went and took, I think it was a short notice fight as well, and potentially even jumped up in weight against Maciej Rozansky. Lost that one, but then has rebounded from there, beating Ken Kaponen, who, you know, has looked pretty good, and won another one there recently enough. So Will has struggled to get matchups, so I'm delighted to hear. I mean, we'll find out more details soon, but I'm delighted to hear that it is for a title, because Will is someone I'd love to see. I'd just love to see Will active. I'd love to see him not struggling to find a matchup and having to go to every corner of Europe to take random fights on short notice against the fifth opponent who's pulled out or decided, you know, stepped in after four others have pulled out. I just want Will to have some activity and a path towards something, whether that be the UFC or elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if he gets in the right promotion and he is successful in his title shot, or maybe defends his title shot, that, you know, Will is a guy that's good enough to compete at the highest level in the UFC. And maybe I'll go to you, Caoilte. I'm sure that you agree with that sentiment.
Sorry, I had myself on mute there. Up tip. Yeah, he's I really like Will, and as you were saying, wrongfully cut from Bellator. Especially after he won 2 fights in Bellator and was then cut. But look, put all that aside, definitely he's probably 1 win, 2 wins away from the UFC, and he wouldn't be out of place there. I think he'd do pretty well if he got a chance there, and I would love to see him get a call up if results go his way.
As would I, and I'm sure as would Andy as well. Like, and I mean, you know, we'll talk about Bellator, but I'm sure that Will himself, and I'm sure we'll be talking to him, or maybe he'll come onto this podcast as well. I'm sure all of that stuff with Bellator is in the rear view mirror. He's looking ahead to this title fight. It should be coming around in the first quarter of this year. So we are very excited to see that. And we'll round off the news segment with maybe, in my opinion, some of the biggest news in the last couple of weeks. And that's the return of Dylan Tuke, a guy who was absolutely a phenomenal prospect on the scene years and years ago. I believe he fought his last fight in around 2018. He's made a move over to Scotland to train over there. A good move. And I just want to get your opinions first, Andy, and then we move to Caoilte. I'm super excited to see Dylan back. I'm really high. I when you kind of announced the news, when Battlefield he'll be fighting on later on this year. I think I tweeted out under your tweet, Andy, that I think we're going to see Dylan Tuke 2.0 coming in here to this fight.
I'm delighted to see you, Dylan Tuke, back. Look, number one, Dylan's a fantastic fighter, but we can't talk about Dylan Tuke without referencing, you know, he's had a bit of trouble recently. There was a court case, and he has since moved over to Scotland. And from what I can see, Dylan looks to be in a great headspace, and I think that he is in an environment that is really, really healthy for him. And you know, I put up a post about Dylan's fight, and immediately there was a lot of just abuse, is what it really was, about, you know, referencing the incident that he was in court for and all this stuff. And I think that Dylan, I personally don't believe, and I'd be willing to put my name in it, I don't believe Dylan's a bad guy. And I think that he is you know, I think he's in the right spot right now. I think he's in the right frame of mind. I think he's ready to come back as well. I think he's had a lot of difficulty getting matchups. You know, he's 4-2, but you know, if you watch Dylan Tuke fight, if you're given a fighter who's 4-2 on paper, and then you go and look at Dylan Tuke fight, you're like, yeah, maybe I won't take that. You know, maybe that's not worth the trouble for an opponent with a 4-2 record, and that seems to be the case. So he's coming in here to Battle Arena. He's taking on not Romania, I got this wrong, Moldovan fighter, Nikolai Piragan, who's 3-0, and it's for a featherweight title. And the last time we saw Dylan fight was against Sadiq Youssef. You know, he got finished. He won't like me saying this. He got finished in the first round. He will protest, and understandably, that it was you know, that it was an early stoppage, because he had a single leg. You know, he was still fighting. But you know, Sadiq Youssef's gone on to fight in the UFC and won twice since then. So I wouldn't be too worried about a loss to Sadiq Youssef on my record. But yeah, I'm very excited for a number of reasons. And you know, when you've got John Kavanagh commenting saying how excited he is, and how exciting a talent Dylan Tuke is, you know, you're doing well.
Yeah, very well said, Andy. And you know, I mean, I'd like to say that as well. You know, it's not my story to tell, but Dylan Tuke had a very difficult upbringing, and you know I'm behind Dylan Tuke. I want to see him successful, and he can use this as kind of a redemption story for himself. You know, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has been there, and you know, he has to accept that, and this is his chance for redemption now. And I truly wish nothing but the best for Dylan Tuke. He's made the move over to higher level in Scotland, which is a fantastic gym over there, and he seems to be doing great. And I'd love to get the opportunity to sit down and talk to him about that move and how good it has been for him. Hopefully I will get the chance to do that down the line. Caoilte, about the move over to higher level gym, like, it really is a great move and a fantastic gym over there.
He's in fantastic company over in higher level, and he looks at home over there. Like, if I've been following on social media, and his stories bring me joy because he looks so happy. He really looks like he's at home over there, and I'm excited. I got to see him fight live in 3 Arena, and he was a pleasure to watch. Then he had his fight with Adam Ventry, and that is just phenomenal. Like,
Don't mention the war.
that the fight's a highlight in itself. I love it. I'd love to see them fight again as well. But mainly focusing on this one. Look, he's in fantastic company over there. He's got fantastic training partners. James Doolan's taking care of him over there with them. So he's been put through his paces, I imagine. And there's nothing but good things being said about that gym. So go ahead.
We never got Paddy Pimlet versus Brendan Loughnane, so we could get Dylan Tuke versus Adam Ventry instead.
Oh, you're trying to bring Adam out of retirement again, Andy. I don't know how he's going to feel about that again. He's kind of leaned more onto the coaching side of things, but maybe a fight with Dylan would kind of get him back out of the bed again. And I mean, when you're looking at someone like Dylan and the losses that he did take, that was against Sadiq Youssef and against Cameron Else, who have made waves in the UFC since then. And when we're talking about Dylan Tuke, and if he can get back into his old ways, and look, he's going to be coming in here as a much better fighter than what he left when he last fought. So that's what gets me excited about this fight. And I think that if he reaches his potential and he reaches his ceiling, that he is going to make massive waves at the highest level. And hopefully he does get his chance with the UFC and with some big organizations as well. And that's right, it for our news stories this week. Let's move over to a couple of quick fire rapid questions. And maybe, Andy, if you'd like to take us away on the questions for a couple of them, we'll get through them really quickly. The show has been going on quite some time. We don't want to keep you too much longer, so we'll just answer a couple of quick fire questions here. If you want to take a couple yourself or pass a few along.
We'll fire through these. So first one's from Thomas Delaney, just asking, how's Ian Coughlin coming along? So, you know, we're an Irish MMA podcast. Goes without saying, we are 100% behind Ian Coughlin, and so is the entire Irish MMA community. The reality of the situation is, with Ian right now, it's very, very difficult for him to receive a lot of the treatment that he needs because of COVID. There's a lot of restrictions in what they can and can't do, and so, you know, my understanding is things are getting a little bit delayed. So I don't know when he's heading over to Germany just yet, but I know that there have been a few complications there. So look, I'm sure there'll be if more updates in due course and stuff like that. But I'd love to obviously speak to Ian again. But for right now, I think we're gonna. It's kind of just sitting tight and letting things play out, and letting him get the treatment, or as quickly as he can get the treatment that he needs. So yeah, I'm sure we'll hear more about that later on. But so from Thomas, for you, Ian. So what does a win for Paul Hughes in March against Jordan Vucenic mean? Does it mean, is it next up UFC?
It can mean next up UFC. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean he will do it, or I'm sure that's what he's wanting to do. Personally, the way I look at it is he has that fight with Vucenic. If he wins that fight, that makes him 1-1. Does he want to get in there for the trilogy fight? Does he want to go in there and fight Morgan Charrier again? I think that's what I would like to see him do. And I think that, those level of fighters are as good a fighters as you're going to get, whether you're inside the UFC or outside of the UFC. I think fighters like Vucenic, fighters like Charrier are elite level fighters. And I think what Paul, I'd like to see Paul getting as much amount of experience as possible before going into the UFC. And I think fighting guys like Vucenic and fighting guys like Charrier and under the Cage Warriors banners is going to give him that, and it's going to set him up for the massive amount of success when he gets to the UFC. So, I mean, does it mean he will be in the UFC if he wins the title? It could mean it. Should he do it? I'm not too sure. That's up to Paul Hughes to decide. But for me, I would like to see him maybe fight once or twice more in Cage Warriors and defend that title and become established there as the champion, and then make the jump over to the UFC. He's not in any rush. He's still young in his career. So, but that being said, if he does make the move over to the UFC, he's going to do some great things over there too. But I'm very excited to see it. That's one of the biggest fights of the year, in my opinion, Vucenic and Paul Hughes. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more closer to the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll set him up nicely, right? Won't it? He's with he's obviously with Paradigm Management as well, so he's in safe hands there, and this is being billed as one of the biggest fights Cage Warriors have put on since a Paddy Pimblett Echo show. So a win will certainly position himself a step closer towards it. For you, Caoilte, so does the Irish MMA scene? This is from Kieran Sherwin. Does the Irish MMA scene need a new John Ferguson? So Barra has obvious shortcomings, but a place for guys to fight locally at the 5 to 10 fight pro experience level.
Ooh, what a question. I really like this one. Maybe not exactly the same. Obviously, the shortcomings are quite well documented, I guess, and they're well known around the MMA scene. Put them aside, maybe not exactly a John Ferguson, but someone who will take risks, I guess, or someone who will take the risk of bringing fighters in from abroad, trying to promote a big fight locally, and getting fighters in from, let's say, the US, or let's say from these other countries, for both amateur and pro, let's put it as well. Like, not just for the pro guys, we need the amateurs as well to have some people come from abroad, take a risk on them. Ones that sell tickets, get them a good fight for abroad, not just ones from countries that would match a similar style that you'd find in Ireland. I'm talking about the ones who will bring something we don't see on the regional scene, and that's like the guys from Russia, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, the US, these wrestlers and get that experience in early, and show that the Irish are able to compete and beat these and potentially beat these guys who are high level wrestlers and have these different type of backgrounds that we don't exactly get to see on the Irish scene. I don't think that'd be unfair to say.
No, it's definitely not unfair to say. Sorry, and I'll let you speak in a second, Andy. It's like, for me, when we're talking about the Irish scene and these shows coming up and having all professional shows, I asked the question to Declan Kenna, Cage Legacy, and he said that we will have some pro fights, but amateurs are the future. But also on the scene, you need those all professional fights. You know, we had it back in the day, but it's not as easy as it used to be. Obviously, the regulations and with the sport being recognized is going to help those things. Obviously, you have to, you know, make sure safety standards are up to scratch as well. And it also costs a lot of money to make all that happen. And you know, we spoke about Cage Conflict, who are doing a phenomenal job. And what we are seeing is a lot of Irish pro fighters maybe taking on a lot of Irish pro fighters, but that talent pool will become quite diminished over time, whereas that you're not going to be able to get these guys fighting one another again. And I definitely agree with Caoilte that, you know, I'd like to see somebody step up, and maybe things will improve once the regulations and the pandemic is kind of slowing down. Once the sport gets recognized, and it makes it a little bit easier to regulate these shows as well. But, you know, I'd like to see somebody come in and do that. It's going to be nothing but good things for the scene if it does happen. And I'm just curious to hear what your thoughts are, Andy.
Yeah, I'm not going to give too much insight here. I wasn't around in the days of John Ferguson, so I don't know what the scene was like then. I understand the context of the question, but what I would say is that professional fighters these days, in that 5 to 10 fight pro experience level, there's more opportunities abroad, in my opinion, than there would have been previously. It's more the spotlight is on Irish MMA more than it was before the come up. So when you're an undefeated, say, Irish fighter at 4-0 or 5-0, there's a spotlight on you, and there are promotions out there jumping at the bit to get you on their shows. Like, look at a Campbell McLaren. Like, he's trying to do everything he can to kind of push that, like, oh, here come the Irish, and like get that movement going. So there's a lot of shows out there. So I think, I don't know if the answer, I don't know if you need one, because there are shows in Ireland now, and there are a lot of opportunities abroad. But would it be great if there was another show that had all pro fights? Absolutely. Like, there's more shows are always welcome and always appreciated. So next one, so from Stuart Hayes for you, Ian. So
just before we go on, like, just to talk a little bit about John Ferguson and what he did back in the day. I was lucky enough to be at some of those Cage Contender shows that he put on. And, you know, excuse me?
Did you fight on any of his shows?
I didn't fight on anyone. I had a couple of team members that did fight, and I was cornering for some of those teammates. And I hadn't the opportunity to fight on those shows. I fought more locally in Kilkenny and Wexford and stuff like that. But by the time it came around, maybe for me to get the chance on those shows, I kind of had stepped away. But I had the pleasure of being up there. I was at, you know, and Graham spoke very well about this on his 10 years of SevereMMA podcast, where what John Ferguson had a tendency to do is make it feel like it was a big show and get that media coverage. I know Graham spoke about his first event that he covered was a Cage Contender show, and they had them up at the King's Hall in Belfast. They had them in the National Basketball Arena in Dublin, and I was at those shows, and they did feel like big shows, you know, kind of like what Cage Warriors are doing when they bring their shows around these days, you know. And it has to be said, if it's not for Bellator's big shows that are only coming in twice a year, or Cage Warriors that are only doing it twice a year now, we don't have those kind of big shows. Cage Conflict are doing the show that they put on last year at Falls Park. That had a big show feel to it, and I hope that we get to see more of that down along the line, because, you know, I do think it is needed. I think we need to get these professional shows on. We need to get to be the opportunity for the fans to go and watch these shows is very, very important. And, you know, that watching the big show, I remember going back to watching UFC Dublin way back. I believe the first time that they were in Belfast was UFC 70. I went up to there and I watched that show, and I was like, that's fed my passion for MMA, and that made me want to stay watching MMA, and then getting the chance for these Irish fighters maybe to compete on some of these big shows and like the likes of Cage Warriors, Cage Conflict, Bellator when they come in. I think it's only going to be a good thing if we can get more of that at a frequent level.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself because I wasn't there. So we'll move on. From where are we? So from Stuart Hayes, thoughts on the level of the women coming through, so the Irish women fighters coming through. Maybe Caoilte, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, of course. I'll try and be quick with it. I think we've already highlighted them before. It's phenomenal, both at youth level, junior, senior, at the amateur level. They're all been fantastic. Look at the likes of even going pro now as well. Look at Sean O'Bannon moving to pro from amateur. You've Danny McCormack, Liam McCourt, Sinead Kavanagh, D. Begley. The list goes on. The level is probably it's the highest ever been right now, and there's a lot of very high hopes, and yeah, we could see hopefully a title in the next few years, in the professional ranks coming back, and an international title at that.
We'll move on, just because we'll hit the 2 hour mark here soon enough. So from the Energize show, and shout out to the Energize show, signing
Shout
up for
out
the
to the
UFC
boys.
Fight Pass deal. I saw their first episode on Fight Pass with Muhammad Makayev. So, you know, love to see Irish media succeeding.
They're like, you know, we mentioned it at the start. They're doing some great work as well. You know, we're like, that's what, there's not too many people out there that are doing the work. So fair play to the Energized boys. Going and give them a follow and go and look at their stuff. And congratulations to them on getting the Fight Pass deal as well.
Absolutely, stay energized. Who would you like to see Cage Warriors sign in 2022, Ian?
I would like to see them build a women's division around Sean O'Bannon, and you know, that's what I would like to see. I think that, you know, we haven't had that many women's fights in Cage Warriors. We've had a few of them in before. I think Sean O'Bannon is big star material. I think she'd fit in nicely there. You could build a division around her, and you could build a division around a lot of the up and coming women that are coming through. And
so funny you say that, and funny that Energize show asked that. Look at this for a synergy right here. They had Graham Boyle on recently, and they asked him, would he have any intention of signing women and getting more female fights? And he said he kind of was like, hang on, are you lads looking at my emails here? So it sounds like there is an intention, at least, for Cage Warriors to sign and put on more female fights, which is great news.
Oh, I'd love to see that, and yeah, that fair play to the lads for asking that, because it's definitely badly needed in Cage Warriors right now.
Caoilte from Paul Brown, next Irish fighter or fighters to get signed to the UFC.
Tough one. Let's go with Paul Hughes.
I agree. I think he's the most likely to get signed next.
Yeah, I agree.
From Jamie Abab-Bisset, from the brother to gold medalist Nadine Abab-Bisset. I think he also fights. Is this the best state Irish MMA has ever been in? Maybe we can all give a 30-second or less answer on that one.
Yes, I think that we're coming into a stage of Irish MMA that I'm really, really excited about. I think the progression of the IMMAF setup is going to nothing but help the professional setup. The sport getting recognized and getting some backing from that side is going to help things. And overall, I'd have to agree with Jamie and what he's saying there, that I think that it is in a really good state of affairs right now, and it's only going to get better.
Caoilte, your thoughts?
Amateur wise, 100%. Professional, I think we're getting there. Maybe we're a little bit off, but maybe give it 2 years, and I think, or maybe a year even. And Irish MMA is probably going to be, I think, booming, both amateur and pro.
Yeah, I'd be in kind of the in-between state, I think, where, you know, it depends how you're looking at it, really. Like, if you look at it from a UFC perspective, no, it's not in the best state it's ever been. You know, we had Conor McGregor winning 2 world titles. We had a plethora of Irish fighters signed to the roster. However, at that time, we didn't have the IMMA setup that we do now. We didn't have fighters, you know, fighting and succeeding on so many different shows. When you look at, you know, what Franz Malambo's doing abroad, Richie Smullen, we just talked about earlier on, fighting for 2 titles. Will Fleury's got a title shot coming up. Sinead Kavanagh, Liam McCourt, the most high profile fight, domestic clash in Irish MMA history. So it really depends how you look at it, but Irish MMA is booming again, and the local shows are back. Maybe the local domestic scene isn't as vibrant as it once was many years ago, but I think it's overall it's in a really good spot and primed to continue to improve. So yeah, Irish MMA is in a really good place. From Andy Hickey, in your opinion, who is the best pound for pound fighter in Ireland right now, not including Conor McGregor? Ian O'Neill, you go first.
Well, pound for pound, probably have to be Ian Garry, really. Pound for pound, I think, you know, he's started his UFC tenure. He's he has another fight lined up, which we'll probably talk about on the next episode. And the news section that was announced recently against Darian Weeks. I think from what I've seen so far, based on raw skills and the level that he's already at, I would have to say Ian Garry. I think it's a very tough question, and maybe I'd like to think about it a little bit more, but off the top of my head, I'd have to say Ian Garry.
Caoilte, what do you reckon?
Ian Garry, straight up. After the year he had and where he is now, I think it's very hard. It's up for debate, but no, I think it's going to say Ian Garry.
Yeah, 3 out of 3, Ian Garry for me. And I don't know, I'm trying to remember what we talked about in the first episode. Was the Darian Weeks, I know it was previously reported by, was that out after in episode 1? I don't think it was, which is a huge misstep. What are we doing?
Yeah, we missed the step on the news segment, but look, we brought it back around, lads. We're all right. We're not too bad.
You know what? We missed one more because Ryan Curtis is back. Ryan Curtis versus Tom Creasy added to IMMAA 8 on February 20th. So the return, I've actually spoke to Ryan Curtis. I have an interview with him coming out soon enough, but yeah, excited to see Ryan Curtis back also. So to round it off, that is, oh, hang on, we don't have a question, but from Sean Denny, if we throw back to episode 1, we were talking about Emil Piontek, which I see how I nailed that, and that is because our resident Polish Sean Denny has told us how to pronounce his name, basically. So that's
giving us some hinters there. Yeah,
Emil Piontek, said fast like Emil Piontek. Surname means Friday. So apologies, Emil, if we previously pronounced your name wrong. And so, Ian, I think you'll take us away now. I think that's
a wrap for episode 2, a monster show. Like I said at the start, you know, we'll be back a little bit sooner than 3 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We'll be bringing you a full roundup of the Bellator Dublin show. We've got a monster show planned for that. We look forward to recording. We look forward to you listening to that as well. Thank you to Liam-Óg Griffin for coming on and talking to us today. Thank you to the gold medalist Atomweight World Champion Nadine Abab-Bisset for joining us today. Thank you to Andy. Thank you to Caoilte for joining me today. Thanks to everybody for listening. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give us a follow on our social media handles, and we appreciate the support. Please do share it out as well. This is a work in progress. We're just getting started. So any feedback you guys have, if you're listening, send it on over to us, because we're open to the feedback. We want to improve the show, and ultimately this is about Irish MMA. We're just getting started. We're going to improve. So please subscribe, share it out, help us grow. And we want you to be a part of this. So I appreciate the support so far. Thanks for listening. Caoilte, anything you want to say? Take us away.
Yup, the lads. Let's go.
The lads. Well said, lad. Well said. Like I said, like Andy said there, you know, we're not trying to bring anything to the table. We are the table. Come and see us. Come and talk to us. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you the next time.